Full professor.
Oh, nice.
Let's go.
I did it for the end of the year too, so.
That's awesome.
And it kind of, yeah, it's like, hey, right?
I don't understand the cause like it's.
Maybe.
How worried is it?
That's what we were trying to figure out. Taking it touch his back.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, this is when they.
Yes.
Renee should be.
Oh, okay.
Renee coming?
Jeff's not,
Jeff's
Oh.
Jeff's out of town.
So they have class work and stuff like that.
Oh, there you go. Let's get that down.
That's interesting.
Okay, we do this. Brian, get used to this. Legos with all the ranges for the like guys. Something else they can't play anymore.
Legos are what?
What's that?
Their Legos are only, they say equals 4 to 99, and he's upset.
So you jam it.
He can't play anymore. It's got him on a grumpy, with a grumpy face. I got you some here from there.
That kind of see it.
We'll make the call.
Yeah. Oh.
Hey, this
When I texted and said I was.
Are you gonna have your
How are you?
Oh, wait, I don't think I actually know what. Yeah, I don't know what it is.
How are you on time? Anything okay? How much you get you?
Oh, that's advisory.
And Carrie, when we get a little squeezed on time, how are you keeping full 45?
I want to be on it.
We can make it a choose your own adventure.
The boss is here now, but just please prepare to be an accordion. Hi, how are you? Good.
I apologize for being late. Did you already start the meeting?
No, we waited, we were gonna wait.
Okay, well, I apologize for being late. We were meeting. Welcome, move right into this presentation.
Mayor, council, thanks for letting us come and chat with y'all today. We are here to discuss Orem City events and specifically the Orem Fest Commission and some changes that we are proposing to the city code to better reflect the current use of the commission and how we really can involve our residents in really meaningful work, how we can expand their scope and how we can use the commission structure to provide some consistency and excitement across a number of city events. When I was assigned to city events a year and a half ago, Orem Fest really was a standalone event that we were taking on. We had Touch a Truck run wonderfully, mostly by Public Works, but with a lot of departments. We had a number of events that were mostly run by that department, but there was maybe some opportunities to bring those into a singular team, led by our event staff, Karina, and now joined by Sydney. And we wanted to now have our commission structure reflect the fact that we have a number of different events, sort of all being run by the same team, coordinating with different departments, and to create some of that consistency. So as we looked at the why, number one is we wanted to focus on a commission structure that aligned volunteers with appropriate volunteer functions and staff with staff functions. In the old way of doing things with Orem Fest, we sometimes had commission members who were meeting with the public and discussing terms of a sponsorship, or maybe they were the lead on executing a contract and then bringing it back to the city. And that led to some chaotic moments for our volunteers, or times where we had to go back out to the business or to the public and maybe redirect what the volunteer had set up so it was in alignment with staff policies. So what we're hoping to do here is put our resident volunteers, our resident commission members in places where the resident can be really successful, they can be fulfilled and have the level of autonomy that they're looking for in their role. And then the staff can take on a lot of the logistics, the contract signing, and use the policies and procedures of the city. Additionally, we hope to sort of expand the scope and consistency of the involvement across some of our Orem events. You have in front of you a copy of the suggested code changes. Steve Earl in the legal department helped us align that with our other commission code items.
Yes.
Perfect.
This isn't a red line version though, is it?
This is not.
So we don't know what we're changing, we just know this is the new code.
Yeah. We could get you a red light version though.
That'd be helpful to know what we're changing, I don't know how quickly we can do that.
I could probably go print that out right now.
So, thank you, Steve. To that, the number one is changing the name from the Orem Fest Commission to the Orem Events Advisory Commission. And aligning that. Number two, is it goes through and again, pulls back from specific Orem Fest tasks to talk about how they can be involved across a number of our different events. It says specifically here, to report periodically to the city council regarding activities for upcoming Orem city events, to enlist the cooperation and participation of various volunteers and community organizations and clubs, in association with Orem city events. To provide advice and recommendations to the city staff regarding the format and programming of Orem city events. And so again, where it had instances of saying Orem Fest, this now would allow them to be involved with Lights On, with truck or treat. And then taking on other various smaller events and advising with and to say, should we bring this up to a full scale Orem city event, or maybe even a partnership event. And saying, should that become like a fully sponsored Orem city event?
So will that reporting be overseen by you guys?
Similar
Well,
responsibilities that we have to the Orem Fest Commission would now be to the
We're
Orem
not
Events
we're not
Advisory.
adding
No,
any
it's just
additional
my
power
that
or
deal to this.
oversight to anyone. We're still filtering.
The residents now would have oversight and opportunity to be involved in more events than just Orem
Okay.
Fest. That's probably the most significant change.
Perfect, thanks.
All right, so the commission members, things that they would be able to be involved with, first is our calendar. You know, the number of events that we have, when we're having them, event support. Previously, they would have like first line responsibility to a portion of Orem Fest. And again, that means we have a volunteer who is sitting like 16 hours in the VIP tent, or they are doing parade logistics, and that's not great for them. That's not a really fulfilling, enriching experience. It also sometimes puts us as staff, where we have someone who is outside of the policies and procedures and reporting chain. It puts them and us in a difficult position in a sort of a high stress environment. So this allows them to be event support, to mingle, to be with y'all, to be with our residents, to focus on the thematic elements, and it puts less logistical burden on our commission members. They would do their debriefing and report to the city events, to the city council. They would help with volunteer efforts. Community connection, we recently had an event where we were working with a third party on a car show, and it was on our park, and we were working with 2 or 3 organizations to host an event. Those are the types of events that our residents who are out in the community working with these other groups would be able to bring to the commission and say, how can we be involved? How much should we be involved? This would allow for event testing across various events. We know how important Orem Fest is to our residents, and so we're often very cautious to make significant changes to something like Orem Fest without testing it first. Now that we have a commission involved with all of our events, we know we have a new vendor that we want to try out, so maybe we take them to the My Hometown event, or we take them to something else. We see if we like it where it affects a couple hundred people before we put it to City Center Park and affect 20,000 people.
Great idea.
This gets that sort of consistency across the board. And then a lot of what our commission members and talks with them love is the theming. What is our motto or our theme of Orem Fest? How do we decorate this, or how do we make it feel more magical? Those types of things I think are where residents can really weigh in a lot with us. And then logistically, our staff go and make it happen. We budget it out, we find vendors and suppliers and everything like that. For the staff across the events commission and across these various events, like I mentioned, anything that involves city policy and procedures, contracts and agreements, purchasing, issues of risk management. The parade is it is a risky endeavor, putting 30,000 residents on roads with vehicles and animals and vans. There's a lot that goes into that. By having staff work directly and sort of interface directly with our risk management department, it keeps the focus a little bit simpler. Interdepartment coordination, we're doing a police night out or fire prevention night or a public works truck or treat, we're able to go staff to make those logistics work so that our residents are not having to get in between interdepartment communication. We of course work on the annual budget, logistics and scheduling, vendors, all of our sponsorship, when cash is transacting, when people are paying the city for services or marketing. Again, I think that is best handled between the communications team, Heather Cox and our sponsorship group, and the city staff, so that residents aren't having to do some of that work. Right now, we put our 4 biggest events on here. You can sort of see that as we look at our commission calendar and when they meet. At any particular meeting, we would be able to be in a brainstorming, a planning, an execution, or a debrief phase for particular events. With the annual focus on just Orem Fest, sometimes those meetings, we have 6 months of just planning, and if we don't want to waste residents' time or have them come to multiple planning meetings, this would allow us to be, in November, we are debriefing on the truck or treat, we are getting prepared to execute the Lights On event, we're in planning for the upcoming Orem Fest, and we would sort of be able to work through multiple calendars at the same time so that they are able to be really involved. I think this last year, our events team executed 58 different events of various sizes. Not all 58 would go through the events commission. We did we did the August employee party, probably doesn't need commission oversight, and so we would work with the commission to say, hey, these ones rise up to the level of resident involvement, these ones can probably say staff internal. And then every year we could probably discuss which ones are moving up or down, which ones are coming into the fold of city events, and which ones stay third-party events and everything like that. Like we mentioned, we'd be able to expand the influence of our residents through testing, identifying event partnerships. This last year, Pete and the Arts Council and our events team and the Senior Center and other groups, we had the Come Together Festival or the Bluegrass Festival, the American Legion Car Show, events that used to be completely not associated with us, entered into a more formal association with the city so that we could deliver a better event to our residents. That, obviously the outside organization gets full credit for the event, but by working a little bit closer, we can align a fireworks show because of fire safety and fall zones and everything like that. For the Bluegrass Festival, it used to be a ticketed event, and we said, hey, if we help bring it in and reduce your cost to the city, could we do that in exchange for no tickets so that we never ticket an event at a park. Those have been really successful, and I think we had more residents that got to do more great things and have more sense of community with Orem by using this group to say which events should we pull in, which events do they want to stay separate, but we can maybe remove some red tape or make it simpler and safer. We'd be able to, again, have a richer, fuller calendar.
So I think we need to coordinate here because, is Pete here? Because our Arts Council brought in the Come Together, we brought in the International Folk Fest, we brought in, I'm trying to remember, at the Bluegrass, and that's what they're focusing on right now, is bringing in, not creating art events, but bringing in partnerships. So how do we coordinate that with this?
We love that.
How do we keep the people in their lanes, or, I don't want to step on this commission. I don't want our people to feel like they're still, but I want them to feel like they're still involved in bringing the art events. What are your thoughts?
One thing that Sydney has really worked on this last little bit is creating event protocol that each of our events that come in would follow the same things. So when we have a parking lot, or when we have a fireworks show, or when we have more than X number of people in a park, we have standards for the number of bathrooms and the number of first responders on site and security. That keeps the Art Council really focused on the entertainment and the venue and the music and the experience. We have some best practices and policies, and it's an annual review where we're able to say, okay, Arts Council, who do we want to bring in next? Do we want more or less fireworks? Do we want more or less of this? And it will, to our resident, we want it to feel like Orem City hosted event. We would never want to say, oh, that was definitely an Arts Council event. That was an Orem events, we want it to feel like Orem City hosted it. So I would say a logistics and consistency behind the scenes for some of these.
So you're not pulling those events under this commission?
Just like on Monday, we have the IUC Harvest Festival. Not pulled in,
Just
not taking
clarifying all
over.
that. Okay.
These are these event partnerships that we have some level of overlap and support.
Okay, because when you say commission scope, it kind of made it sound like here. pulling this under this commission, you're not.
No, but we would formalize what we are and aren't doing, because sometimes that gray area, in fact, these partnership ones are ones that get the stickiest the quickest.
Yes.
And so this would give us, some resident commission to say, hey, have we talked, have we done this? What is the formal, are we sponsoring ship, or do we just see our logo slapped on their event after the fact, and we're like, oh, that wasn't ours, we didn't know about that. This gives us some formal relationship guidelines.
So is there,
Or like what's come together, like what come together.
Uh-huh.
I mean, so that every activity is not a new experiment, that's why they're trying to just basically lay out the format, right?
okay, but
Yeah, I
this,
mean,
this
may-
commission
may please,
isn't voting on the come together at all.
No, but they're
They have
talking
no
about the
oversight.
partnering,
You're just showing the
Showing
partnering.
The partnership
Okay,
of it.
thank you
Yeah.
for clarifying.
partnering. So
I
so
know
for the
that-
city piece, it will be really clearly defined, we won't have to redefine it every single time. It's gonna be
Perfect.
set.
And that's for the code they're changing, isn't for the commission to oversee it, it's for us to have one code that helps us do it all.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, I feel much better about this. I gotta protect my commission.
Please do. Okay, so that's really what we've suggested here. It goes through a number, the number of changes to the code, hopefully the red line reflects this, that Steve has handed out. A lot of it is simply changing some of the language from Orem Fest to Orem Events Advisory Commission. There are a couple of things that, again, from specifically this Orem Fest and a number of events. Do y'all have any other questions on what this new commission might look like? We did have a chance to do a deep dive with council members Gail and Kilpack, who are on the Orem Fest Events Commission, and we went through a number of deeper logistical questions. I think this piece would start that, so we can then take this to the commission and work with them on enacting this for the upcoming year.
I'm still uncertain here, because we have people come to our arts meeting wanting to come and perform in Orem. So who filters that? The Arts Council or this commission?
If they were asking to perform as part of Orem Fest Stage Entertainment or Orem's Got Talent, then we would be much more involved. If the Orem Art Council says we don't currently have enough venues, we want to create a new event where we can have more people perform, Arts Council would say, we need more performers, and then we would get together and say, let's talk about that. What parts do you want to use? Do you
From a
have?
staff perspective. I guess my question is, does that event get run through this commission? The event that comes to the Arts Council to ask if they can perform in Orem, do they go through this commission?
I would say they would, if it's an act asking to perform in Orem, it would go through them. And then we could help filter how big of an event, what is the impact on the park, how many nights have we closed that park off to general users? We would have that
Would
discussion.
that be internal communication then, with it just staff? So
Yes.
I think that's most of
That's
the
what I'm
time.
trying to find out,
So
is
the commission
are your,
does it, and then you guys make sure it works out, okay, you guys, you humans, people. that-
yeah, per the, what you're saying, the system you wanna put in place. I just don't know if you're saying this commission's gonna oversee what the Arts Commission approves.
The events, so as he described in the earlier slide, it talks about partners and it talks about sponsored. So the partnering would be the Arts Council's over the project and they're partnering to make sure that the logistics of the event will come off, proper liability insurance, all that. And that's what this is. This is the
That's
end,
what you
this is
did,
the end.
okay.
So every year they do this for Orem Fest, taking that type of organization to kind of make sure everybody's the i's are dotted, t's are crossed process to what happens on city parks, properties, and so that we're all more
Okay, so we don't have citizen oversight over the Arts Commission.
Your Arts Commission is your Arts Commission. This events would be more for helping with those events that are don't have citizen input per se, and so they'll help with those, but anything that like one of the other partners.
Okay, is that clear in here?
I don't know that level of detail that is specified in there.
Cause it's not,
Do we need it?
this is the ordinance that will change so that we can have all of the events that take place, have the infrastructure, the city employees help oversee. That's what this is.
Okay, so it's an infrastructure ordinance.
I mean, the way I understand this, so somebody comes to the Arts Council and they wanna do it and whatever, so the Arts Council talks to them, they figure everything out. But then they would turn to the staff piece of
The events.
this event commission, and that's how they would make the event
But
happen,
not the citizens.
right?
Not the citizens of
Okay,
the county.
okay.
commission.
Just not
Kinda
the
like-
citizens goes to the other.
It's the city staff that would help the
They
arts.
get support from the
Like how the farmer's market didn't do their own music while Come Together was doing music. We coordinated and said, don't do your music this week because these guys are doing, that was all staff coordinated. Okay,
Yes.
Maybe another way to state it, I mean, both of these commissions are advisory commissions, and I notice that's becoming more clear. And so it's not like, the intent of this is to not add sort of two approval bodies out
Right.
of volunteers, right?
good.
Because they're both just advisory commissions, so the Arts Commission would continue to advise on the talent and the entertainment. And I suppose at some point, the Events Commission could advise on making sure that we're offering the best practices of support for every event.
Okay.
But it wouldn't be an additional approval or approval process for the talent.
Okay, it's just logistics, infrastructure.
And to add to that as well, there were times in the beginning of spring when before we were getting ready for the farmers markets and deciding, how long it was going, that I was invited by the Arts Council to come in to a meeting and be like, hey, here are what we wanna do for farmers market, here are some of the events we wanna do, what are your thoughts? And so I was able to just sit and be like, oh, here are my thoughts of logistics and the other events and the event calendar as well was a big thing of like, oh, we can't do an event then because we're finishing up Orem Fest, so we're adding in we have a couple other events that are council are gonna be involved with, and so it was more of like, I came in, chatted with them, and then stepped out, and if they needed more logistics after that, I went back.
And it sounds like some things, like Orem Fest, some of the bigger events, they're gonna be 100% going through this events commission, right?
Yes.
So that's like an all by itself, but then you've got these other things that something for the arts, they wanna do some other event. So they're gonna come to the events commission for support and structure and helping to pull off that event. But they're not really driving it. So it's got several different roles.
I think primarily to the events that we kind of filtered under this or the events commission is Orem Fest, Truck or Treat, Lights On, and the future of Taste of Orem. So it's not filtering and advising on the ones that we do partnerships with, like Arts Council.
I guess cause that's what I'm reading, it says, and other events.
Mhm.
So, you've clarified it
Do you
now,
wanna-
so I'm.
did. Perfect.
And thanks for the red line motion.
Yes.
Very helpful.
I just wanna say, I know you guys have spent a lot of time thinking about this and I really appreciate it. I think this is where Orem is in the city. This is a really necessary next step to protect us from liability, but also to give us an opportunity to hear more from our residents on a wider variety of activities and events. So I think it's a great thing you guys do. So thank you.
Well, this just for general information, we talk a lot about all of our commissions and our committees and our citizen organizations, all these different things. This is kind of a precursor of where that's all going. And so, yeah, this is the beginning.
Of the refinement.
Yes.
Of
Of
the
the
commissions.
refinement of all that.
Refine, optimize, make more efficient, effective, elevate.
We have 7 commission members that are up for renewal right now. And so we also wanted to maybe get this one 2 months ahead of that one so that as they get a chance to come back and say, is this what I want to do? We would much rather do it at the beginning when it's a clean start and they have an understanding of this prior to them signing on so that it feels like a nice clean process. So.
Thank you.
We also wanna have basically, Karina has really upped our game as far as events. And we've done a lot of, she's done amazing things. And so we kind of want to start to institutionalize a lot of those practices and a lot of those improvements. So they'll become just the way that we do things in the world, right?
Yeah.
So this helps make that happen.
Could you stay another year or two?
Yeah, yes.
It's in our contract.
Yes. I really wish. I have loved everything about Orem City, and so I get emotional because I love Orem City and I love being here and being a part of the events, and I really hope something like this is going to start the ground running of like the future of Orem City and the events and the consistency, and this, like Bryce said, involving more of the residents and giving them more of the jobs that really, you know, matter to them, of like, we wanna have an opinion of, you know, the theming, or we would love to add in these aspects, and then that's our job as staff of making their dreams come true and like bringing the community together. So I've been so honored to be a part of it and to serve with you guys, and it makes me sad, but I'm also excited for the new adventure that we have ahead.
We're not.
Yeah, no, I get it, I definitely get it.
So we're excited for your family, just not you.
Yeah. Again, it is a small company, no one's ever heard of them before.
So if you come back, hey, there you
Yes.
go. We're excited for you.
Thank you. Okay.
There's something that Karina has taught me from day one, is adding bougie on a budget.
Yes.
I know she's gonna stick to a budget and a standard and a framework and have things organized, but also add that bling, that extra, you know, intangible to just make sure everyone loves it.
Thank you. Okay, I think that is everything. Thank you guys so much.
So I think we're probably anticipating what, next meeting, to bring this to at a regular meeting for adoption. Is that right?
If that works for y'all.
So great, if you guys are all.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up. Next up, we've got item number 2, presentation on West Park boundary line agreement. Yes, Ryan, would you like to take that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This works, all right, perfect. Here to talk to you tonight about Westmore Park and Westmore Elementary. This came up, to our attention a couple of weeks ago. Alpine School District has been going around and securing their sites with fencing. Under new state law, they now are required to make sure their campuses are secure. So they're going to be installing a fence along this property line here. And what they had found out with the surveyor going out there is that the deeds overlap, the record deeds do. And so it's not really a very clean property line right now. So the solution is to come up with a proposed boundary line between both parcels. And for us and the school district to agree to that line, and then Alpine can go in and put their fence in. So you'll notice there's a pathway that goes into the park right here. The fence will not cut that pathway off, it'll go to this corner and connect to an existing fence. So the neighbors that live over here can still access the park, but the fence would run from that corner down to, there's a fence corner right here.
So the neighbors can't walk into school property and continue to be able to walk into the park, is that correct?
That's correct. So here it is zoomed in a little bit better. So the proposed boundary line agreement, I'll talk about in a minute, goes from a fence corner with this home to a fence corner with this home. And again, that's about where the fence will tie in, leaving that path open. So they had a surveyor do a record of survey, and that's what this map shows. This is it kind of in its entirety and then blown up. So again, the boundary itself will go from fence corner to fence corner. The fence will not. But the description of the boundary line is from fence corner to fence corner. And then they state the purpose of the survey is to define an agreed upon boundary line between Alpine School District and Orem City property.
Are we gaining a little land or losing a little land?
If anything, it's really unknown. This is kind of what we have occupied the entire time. So we've kind of honored this as the boundary between the two parties, and we've been maintaining it that way. The only thing that will have to happen is Orem has some sprinkler heads that we need to move, and the school district has some sprinkler heads they need to move. But for the most part, it's kind of been where we've all thought the boundary was the whole time. They have staked it, and I've walked it with Chris, and his parks team has looked at it, they don't have any concerns with it. or it's proposed. So that if council's okay with this and there aren't any concerns, Seaborough's working on an agreement right now, then both parties will review it and then Brett would be the one to sign it. But we just wanted to make sure you're all aware of it and it was brought to your attention. So, any questions?
Is this something they're gonna do with all the schools like Foothill that shares that park?
They haven't approached us with Foothill yet, but I would not be surprised. They did share them last year and
We did Centennial.
it's Centennial, and they did Orem Elementary as well.
And we didn't hear about those because there wasn't a property dispute.
Yeah. Yeah, because they have the right to go in and do the fence on their boundary.
And we're not sharing the cost of the fence,
We are not, they're paying for it.
we're just moving a few sprinkler heads.
Yeah.
And I'm still unclear from what Tom's question was are we gaining or losing?
When you don't know where the boundary line is, a surveyor is hired to determine where it is.
How about based on what we thought it was, are we gaining or losing?
I say it's about where we always thought it was.
It's negligible. It's pretty minuscule. It isn't
Yeah.
a lot of ground.
If you were to, well, if you can get it to pull
Well, kind of
up.
that's the question, how wide is that?
That line, yeah.
Those two lines, what's the difference between those two lines?
Oh, well,
It's just-
40 feet. You
It's
can't
like
really.
10 inches, is it like 3 feet?
So this is a good example. Our grass is usually darker, because Chris's team fertilizes it well, and you can kind of see the fence corner. It's really not that much different than what we've been occupying.
Do we need to,
Just because deeds overlap, record deeds, doesn't mean that that's true ownership. Ownership is what's occupied on the ground. And a surveyor uses best evidence to determine where they think that boundary line is.
do we need to do a dollar and other value consideration on either side, or we're just gonna agree to the new line?
Correct, just agree to it. And our city surveyors reviewed this, and he doesn't have any concerns with what their surveyors prepared.
So are you saying the line is the difference in the fertilization?
Yeah, pretty much, yes.
So Ryan has used the term used, but essentially what we maintained.
Maintain.
Yeah.
Right. And after X years, that becomes ownership, doesn't it? So.
Well,
Depends.
yeah, as long as you've done something, yeah.
I'm not an attorney, but Steve, it's.
Yeah, more of a hassle to mow it, you have to go right up to the fence.
Yeah, they will be putting a mow curb under it.
Oh, are they?
So that would be helpful.
So this is mostly just informational because nothing's really changing significantly.
That's right. It's matching the occupation.
But so the fence to the school will be completely locked,
Correct.
but the park access will not be at all. We will just have an opening. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
park will still be
There'll
open.
be no opening though between the park and
Or, yeah, school.
And the school.
It's a sad state of affairs.
But that sidewalk will stay the business for your children.
Is that like a soccer field they've been using or something? What's that?
They must have at one time, I don't know when this photo was taken, well, it says 24, but when Chris and I were out there weren't any soccer fields marked.
it looks like that it was crossing that line at that time.
We reviewed it with our rec staff. We are currently using the field for any league or anything like that, so it will not impact our ability to run the program.
Any other questions?
There's an idea. There's
We good?
I think we're good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ryan.
Do we need to do anything more? Does this have to come to a future meeting?
No, Bryn will be able to
Just
send the agreement.
As always, if some sort of question or concern or clarification comes up, always feel free to let me know.
Very good, good, your back looks good.
Way to go. Support hard.
You did a great job.
I think we to just take a 5 break, go and grab our food and then we're all, they've got 45 minutes.
A lot of us are senior citizens.
That's right, 'cause you never.
I know, I never.
I sent it to us, well.
Feel
What are
like,
you serving up today?
let's go ahead. Let's go and take a break, get our food, and yes, we need a prayer. Volunteers?
You guys want to call? Our Father in heaven, we're grateful we can be gathered under favorable circumstances to try to do some good for this city. We're thankful for the food that's been brought in, and we ask for a blessing upon it in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay, we'll just break for 5 minutes and then come right back.
So I'm just saying.
Right?
This is-
I'm pretty sure you're right, but I thought.
You know, you saw that. One of the things I was wondering. Next year, here's the county. But it wasn't.
I'm glad you guys are eating to stay awake and everything, but I just wanted to introduce Steve Cannon. Recently, our IT division split into two divisions. It was part of our efficiency study. So that we could focus more on security and on the development side. So Steve Cannon is our new division manager over security and development. But with some new bills that were passed in the last legislative session, he's also taken on the privacy role for the city as well, which is going to be a big responsibility moving forward, and he's going to discuss that a little more now. But I will tell you, it's getting the right people in the right seats to make this organization successful. And Steve Cannon is one of the most technically savvy, smart, intelligent human beings that you'll ever meet. So when he bores me to death, we know he's
set up.
doing a great job.
With that, allow me to flop. So, if you guys don't mind, I handle this a little better standing, if that's okay. So the two big topics that we're gonna discuss is kind of a citywide, overall, general cybersecurity framework and what that means. It sounds big and ambiguous, and I want to make it a little more concrete for you. And then the second portion of the conversation is to talk about what the city is currently doing in response to the state of Utah's general Government Data Privacy Act, or House Bill 490. So that's kind of the roadmap that we're going to follow today. Big idea is that the city is adopting, or yeah, I'd say that's a fair statement. The city is adopting a framework of looking at cybersecurity across the organization. We've chosen a framework called governance, risk, and compliance. The method here is to take governance, your policy, your procedure, your controls, right, to document all of those, and they bring them into conformity with independent best practices. Then to take a look at your risks, catalog those risks, and to identify which of those can be mitigated, the low-hanging fruit, and work your way up, right? And then compliance. We have a number of different businesses that are a conglomerate of the city of Orem, and they are regulated in in very different ways. From criminal justice, information security requirements to critical infrastructure, with water and wastewater, to now the state of Utah's General Data Privacy Act for things like citizen data held by the library, right? We've got PCI, or payment card industry standards for taking payments, right? These all are ways in which we are currently regulated in how we do business, and they can be a bear to try to attack from individual positions. It's better to take a holistic approach. So we found that the management of IT departments does not effectively regulate an organization's data. This is why regulating the data itself ends up being the new standard. But why is it ineffective? And the answer is because information technology departments and divisions are no longer the only ones implementing information technologies in the organization, right? And we don't necessarily want to. That stymies growth and innovation. It leaves us, at the whim of the available cycles of personnel in IT, right? And so people see a problem in their job and they go to the internet, they see potential solutions, right? And what we're proposing here is forgive me, I can use water, a clear and consistent framework for evaluating the way in which we implement IT and really our data across the entire organization. So I asked ChatGPT to take the major regulatory frameworks that we are currently under, that fall under ways of doing business, and to graph them. And this is the fabulous third/fourth dimension picture that it presented itself. So, to calm the chaos and to produce a consistent way of looking at this problem, the recommended solution is to use a single unifying cybersecurity framework. That's a whole lot of words. I want to back out of all of that real quick, and I want to talk about something that's maybe a little more concrete, so that this turns the right switch in your mind. Building code. I want to talk about building code. We have And we adopt as a city international building code, right? And that governs the way in which we build buildings in the city of Orem. Imagine if we said, international building code, that's nice and all, but we're gonna do it our own way. And we're gonna develop a new type of code each time we build a new type of building. And as people exit the role of code enforcement, they may apply a different code than the previous person, producing inconsistency across the board. So we adopt the International Building Code. So does International Building Code define how your buildings look? Kinda. It defines what an acceptable height for a ceiling or width for a hallway or the run of some stairs. But there's a dance there, right? There's the creative input, and then there's also the known measures that keep us safe. Adopting and inspecting to the International Building Code standard offers us as a city a level of indemnification. People can't come back on us when they fall or when the building burns down. If we've inspected and that building was built to International Building Code. We can't be negligent about that, right? Like we can't say we adopt IBC, but then we don't really test or look at it. So there's our part to do our due diligence, right? But ultimately, we don't make a decision every time a new building comes up. We lean on the International Building Code to produce hopefully a positive outcome every time. And in places where we believe it should not apply to us, we change our code, right? We acknowledge it. We go through a formal process of saying, this does not apply to us, or we're going to apply it slightly different because of where we live. What I'm asking for is the same thing in the way in which we build our information systems and the way in which we manage our data. So, in steps, a very accessible data, information, and security framework. The Center for Internet Security Controls version 8 is what IT has been operating off of since 2007. But, again, as we've discussed already, IT is implemented across the organization, not just by the information technology department. So again, management of IT departments does not effectively regulate an organization's data, and that is why regulating the data itself is the new standard, and regulating it organization-wide. So what does this afford us? What are the benefits of doing this? Not only do we get a safer, more consistent product, but also based upon Utah House Bill 80, it, in the same way that building code offers us a level of indemnification, if we have adopted a cybersecurity framework and are actively building toward it, then we also have a level of indemnification if a cybersecurity event occurs. So there's Verizon does this study internationally every year. It's called the DBIR, the Data Breach and Incident Analysis Report. In the 2023 calendar year, the average cost of a cybersecurity event worldwide was $4.5 million, roughly. And the United States led the pack again, I think for the 15th year running, in which the average cost of a data breach in the United States is $9.5 million.
When you say that, cost to who? The cost to who?
The cost to the organization that was breached. So this would be data forensics, this would be buying, identity management, or there's a better term for this, forgive me.
Would that be like individual companies? Would that be the software that's protecting against the data breach?
This would be the individual company that was breached. In just managing the event, whether from a technical standpoint or from a social standpoint or from a legal requirement standpoint, we would be, let's say we were breached, right? Utah state law requires us to offer identity protection services to any of the data humans whose data was breached for a period of 2 years. And that can be a hefty sum. That answer your question?
Yeah.
Not because they add, like your credit report, you know, I mean, I've gotten those emails, we've been breached, we're giving you free, whatever.
Yeah.
Is that all added into that?
Yes.
0.5?
Yes.
Okay.
So, in Internet, Center for Internet Security Controls, it's really good. I think that's kind of the big idea from the cybersecurity framework standard. Any questions? There's what?
So where do we go? You're saying we don't have it, so
Yeah, so
we need it, obviously.
I presented, a longer and more verbose version of this presentation to executive staff and have put forward some documents that would kind of formally state our claim to a specific cybersecurity framework. Once adopted, we would be applying these policies, these procedures and controls, not just to IT, but organization wide.
Okay, so you have a plan, you're implementing it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Can you tell them how it will affect them if they?
Yeah, so in the same way that there can be an awkward moment with a building inspector as you build or have a contractor build something and the inspector identifies some less than desirable build qualities that could impact life and safety, right? There is that renegotiation of particulars and changes must occur, right? Good example, your password. Password's one of those fundamental building blocks for security. And over time, there have been a number of different ways in which we've attempted to mitigate that issue, right? It has to be 8 characters. Well, it has to be 8 characters and it has to be changed every 3 months. Well, actually, you can make it 12 characters and we can do some security work on the back end, and then you only have to change it every year or every 2 years, right? Ultimately, these best practices govern, in many instances, some of the basic ways in which you interface with technology, and actually govern some of the ways in which we are able to manage how we do security on the back end. Good example, we store a lot of data, and that data may be stored in clear text. And if that data were stolen, there is zero barrier to entry of a bad guy to have all of the information available to them to do whatever they like with it. A good security framework would identify that information stored at the core of your network should be encrypted. And if stolen, that encryption should be strong enough that it would be extremely difficult for bad guys to get access to the raw data. And so these would be some of the ways in which we can change things on the back end, but there definitely are front end changes that impact employees and you guys as well. Does that help with that? Okay.
So I just want to emphasize, adding more security will mean increased inconvenience for you on the council and us as staff. It means, it'll mean creating stronger passwords, it'll mean adding two-factor authentication, things like that. You've seen other organizations start.
I use my same password everywhere, do I have to change all?
Get with me after this.
Yeah.
I can show you something.
I love Orem is my password everywhere.
It should be Tom followed by your birthday.
Yeah.
No one knows it.
The 2 most common passwords, I love you and password 123. So just go ahead and use one of those 2.
I was about to guess if someone got a four.
No one's gonna hit me here.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Okay, figure out smart.
Any further questions on that topic before we start talking about the privacy?
I wanna know if we can really trust you. Do you wear a tie every day to work or just for this?
I actually lately, early on in my employment here, I wore a tie every day. I was actually told by the previous development services director to lose the tie, so I lost the tie.
It's hard to trust an IT guy with a tie.
That's not right, it was administrative services. It was
Administrative services.
Correct.
maybe you can go to it, Steve, because Steve has actually been has been becoming I guess, a leader in this field in the state. So maybe you could just give an example or two of what you've seen, where you've seen failures by other cities in the news.
Yeah. So there was the Eagle Mountain financial manipulation in which they lost a couple million. Actually, we've had the same type of tactics attempted and applied on us in the last 2 months. We were able to catch the scam, and we were able to notify the company that had been compromised, that the scam had been running through, that they were compromised, to help them resolve that. I want to say it was West Jordan or West Valley, forgive me.
It's West Jordan.
West Jordan.
No place record.
Yeah, so we had a sit down, maybe not from the advice of council. Local IT directors had a sit down, we talked about the particulars of that breach. And how many of the particulars of that breach leaned on the fundamentals of these cybersecurity frameworks. The hottest topics within these frameworks that you're supposed to address almost immediately. They they had haphazardly applied them because some of the engineers knew best practices and some of them did not, right? And again, the beauty of a framework is not to make a unique and bespoke decision every time you need to build something, is to be able to turn to the framework and say, these are the standards by which I need to build this, right? And then you both agree, two engineers or two different cities, you both agree on what best practices can be. And then we did have a meeting with Salt Lake. Salt Lake actually had an intrusion. They wouldn't call it a breach, but they did identify a malicious actor who had gained administrative access to one of their systems. And again, by implementing best practices, identified an anomaly in their system, we're able to quarantine that system and we're able to remediate it before it turned into something nasty. And then I do spend a bit of time with the Department of Homeland Security, CISA, the Critical Infrastructure and Cybersecurity Agency, where we go through on a week-by-week basis. Really, right now, the hot topic, the hot button item in cybersecurity in relation to the United States' critical infrastructure and Chinese state actors obtaining a foothold or obtaining access into critical infrastructure and remaining there. Not exfiltrating data, not shunting data home, and not bringing down the system, but leaving a door open so that if geopolitical, and the argument right now, or at least the general belief by the US government is that they're lying in wait so that if the geopolitical tension becomes less than desirable, they have the ability to shut down water, wastewater, and electrical, and transportation infrastructure. Right, so these are some of the ways in which, and we've banded together as IT directors around the city, around the state, and we are currently sharing our policies, our procedures, and our controls with each other so that we can build better policies. Because the hive mind, the true mind there, we see so much differently than one another. Because the way in which Salt Lake is attacked is not the way in which Hurricane Utah is. Right? But we also get to build up the service that gets provided in Hurricane because we're sharing information.
I mean, it's, like, so I know in business today, an employer will click on an email and then all of a sudden, so is that the main thing? But I'm assuming that they're a little more technical or advanced. It's not through an email, it's maybe.
Actually, so there are a number of stages within the chain of a compromise, right? And the number one method right now that malicious actors get into a quote unquote secured network is actually through email compromise.
Okay, so it's delivery.
But these frameworks allow us to identify methods of building layered security on the way in which we do business, so that if we are compromised at the email
It stops the
level,
next level.
exactly, we have mitigations in place.
They're in, but the door's shut.
Exactly, so like what used to be referred to as a man trap in data centers or in banks or in vaults, where you have to step into a room and the door closes behind you. And that door has to be closed before you're capable of stepping into the next room. We do that digitally. Lack of a better way of talking about it.
Can I give an example of what happened recently?
Please.
So I'm a part of the Fogo River Water Users Association. And their, all of their networks was hacked by a group of people in China, where they had access to gates to control water flowing in our state, in our water system. They took everything off of the internet and just they did everything. They communicate through their own in-house network that's not connected to the outside world as a result of that. That happened about 6 years ago.
Wow.
So it's real.
So it's,
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
And Dave, also to your point, we were having kind of a sidebar conversation here, but we have required training that comes out very regularly. And automatically that teaches and trains our employees on how to identify and protect the city against the latest strategies to attack.
I mean, people love to click, you know, and you're screwed.
Well, they're getting better and better with what they're putting out, the bad guys.
Actually, so what Brendan was referring to actually ends up being two different interactions from the same product. One of them are required videos of, hey, this is how you spot something bad in person, right? The other side of that is that we actually send some emails that look bad, that are bad in the same ways in which malicious actors gain access to your network. And then when you click on it, it notifies you, hey, this was a scam email. These are the things that you probably should have caught. Better luck next time, right? So we are attempting to not only offer educational materials, but also engage in hands-on training for employees. And again, all of this is prescribed in these cybersecurity frameworks. And from an IT perspective, this is kind of these are industry best practices. These are the ways in which we want to build. But yet again, going back to the earlier conversation, this has to be regulated organization-wide because it is no longer just IT that implements information technology.
So Stephen, as part of this, correct me if I'm wrong, we'll be coming back with a resolution. As part of those House bills, it kind of helps us meet those, indicating that we as city council agree to these frameworks. That correct?
Probably not a resolution. This is just going to be a policy that is adopted by Brent as city manager. But I think this is to kind of let the council know that this is the direction we're taking for the policy.
So where are we at right now as far as where you're trying to go on with our budget?
So the foundation of any good cybersecurity program is making sure that executives are on board. This presentation was given in exec staff 2 weeks ago-ish. And I think unanimously interested. I think the conversation from that presentation was that this presentation should go to the council as well, just to make sure that we're all on board. So that there's a level of transparency, so you guys see what we're doing to ensure that, listen, I'm a citizen of Orem. I want my data that is held by the city as secure as anyone else. I'm personally invested in this, right? And I think it's the right conversation to make sure that the council is aware of the efforts that are being made by the city to secure the city's data.
And and we as exec staff want you to be aware when there's a policy that rises to this level and is citywide. You know, the standards and practices that are intended.
So I'm still a little confused on, so we've got the city of Orem currently has no official adopted framework. So where are we going?
We have the documentation already handed to exec staff, and I think this conversation was just the final step in ensuring that we put that stamp of approval on it and address any concerns that you guys have, any I think the big conversation here ends up being that there is usability and there is security. Anything that is completely usable is not secure, and anything that is completely secure is not usable. Right? And so as we move the needle from usability into a little more security, there may be some frustration, there may be some friction. Now, we'll attempt to apply technical solutions to those problems as much as we can, but ultimately, many of those frictions are unavoidable. Forgive me, did you have something?
Well, you kind of answered it, because I was like, is it this thing, it's not about, I mean, it's more tightening down privacy. By tightening down the usability.
Sometimes.
Because it's not gonna open us up for privacy concerns. If not, if anything else, it would go the other direction.
So actually, this dovetails beautifully into the next section, which is the privacy conversation. Because yet again, one more way in which we are now regulated in the way that we do business as the city is Utah House Bill 491, which regulates how we engage in privacy of the data that we hold. Right, it identifies a couple of big ideas. Number one is that the subject of the data, you, right, each of you natural humans, are actually the owners of the data. Because we have it in our care does not mean that we own that data. It does not mean that we can do as we want with that data. Right, so this is one of the ways in which the Utah State Legislature has changed the conversation about how we acquire, how we store, how we process, and how we delete that data. And this supports that. Cybersecurity framework supports us in doing that. The next step, which we're regulated for privacy.
That was my question. You're wanting me to support something that represents, that is what you just represented, then I'm good with that, right? As long as the privacy is also protected.
So that's the second part of this conversation. I'm just gonna close on this because I don't have a presentation for the privacy. So privacy side of the conversation. So House Bill 491 was passed and there are provisions that are required for us to be compliant with beginning May 1st of this year. And we have a runway of until May 1st of, I want to say 2027, 2028, I think it's 2027, to be compliant with all of the provisions identified in that bill. One of which is to have a written privacy program that identifies the values and the vision and the particulars of the way in which we secure people's data and ultimately keep it private. So a couple of things that we've done so far is we have adopted a citywide privacy notice. This was part of the legislation. What we did was rather than have each kind of business organization draft their own privacy statement, we looked to do one holistically. So we wrote one that we believe fits almost every way in which we're currently doing business within reasonable limits, right? And that is now available on Orem's website. Ultimately, to be compliant, we're going to have to post that either in physical form or in a linked form. Anywhere in which we acquire, let's see, the language here is very specific. Where we collect or acquire citizens' information, but not just citizens. So I want to be clear about the types of data that the city holds, right? We have citizens' data, we have employee data, but we also have non-citizens and non-employees data. These would be people who run or who build things in the city of Orem, or who vendors, another great example of that. We need to make sure that we are engaging in proper categorization of that data and making sure that we're compliant with the ways in which the state has asked us to manage, maintain, store, and ultimately delete that data. In addition, right, we've also implemented at this point a uniform contracted data that is also required by the state bill. When dealing with vendors who will store or transmit citizen or employee data, any contract that has been signed post May 1st, we've implemented this contracted data. A couple of the items in that addendum identify that the data in which the third party will hold is not theirs, it's the city of Orem's, and ultimately that citizens have the right to correct and audit the data that the city stores, and therefore these third parties would need to be compliant with those requests as well. And that data cannot be used for a different purpose than what was stated at the time the data was collected.
Okay, so that's in our policy right there,
That is,
Or is
so
that in
that
the
is
law?
in the contract addendum
Okay.
with third parties.
because that's key right there.
It is. Let's see, what's the, and the last kind of big step that we're working on right now is we need to have a written privacy program in place before May 1st, 2025. So the big ideas that are currently contained in the draft version of the strategy identifies the different types of data that the city holds. It identifies the different life cycle events that occur within that data, whether that's acquisition, the storage of that data, the processing of that data, and ultimately the deletion of that data as it outlives its retention cycle. And then the values that the city, and I think the state's done a really good job here of encouraging us in the right direction for these values. But I also think that, you know, we should affirm them individually as well, like collectively, I mean, as a city. And those are the right of notice. So the right to for people to know that we are collecting information about them, the right to choice, the right to correct, and the right to audit that information. Now, the bill does not offer citizens the right to delete that data. But I think there's a discussion there. Ultimately, that comes down to the retention cycle. And then finally, the organizational values of data minimization, meaning we are collecting only the minimum amount of data needed for us to complete the task that we are attempting to accomplish, that we are going to limit the purpose of that data only to what we collected it for and what we disclosed that we were using it for, and then data safeguarding while it is in our custody so that it is encrypted at rest and encrypted in transit. So we're being good stewards with the data as we hold it, and then ultimately reasonable retention and deletion. So those are the big ideas. Questions? Hearing none, next for this moment, but thank you, I appreciate the time.
I just have one question.
Please.
And it's kind of a trivial one, but I'm just curious as far as our system here and where you're going as far as security. If you're able to have Apple, like an Apple laptop, integrate with the system, okay?
That comes down to more of a technical limitation than a privacy one.
Not privacy, but just as far as this new format that you're talking about building.
Yeah, let's see, how can I can approach this from many different levels. I think I'm gonna try to keep it super high level. The investment that the city has made traditionally in our operating programs and the way in which we leverage computers to do business more effectively and efficiently and share data across the organization has uniquely been tailored to Windows operating system, because it has traditionally been the operating system of choice inside of the enterprise environment. Bringing the body of programs and software that we have developed over the last 20 years onto a completely separate platform is a Herculean undertaking. And that is why the new applications that we have begun to develop, the new class of applications that we've begun to develop, have been based in a web browser, so that they are platform independent or agnostic. Now, the next question invariably would be, what would be the time frame, right? And again, a Herculean effort. So it depends upon, ultimately, unfortunately, the answer to your question is, it depends. It depends on what services you rely upon and that you use within your job function. And then the second component of that is compatibility with the security products that we buy. Ultimately, the larger number of platforms that we need to support usually ends up needing a larger number of dollars that we have to hand to vendors. And so we reduce, reuse, and recycle by keeping a consistent and narrow standard. I'm not sure that answered the question that you really wanted me to answer.
Yeah, I guess in short of and maybe it's not changing, but where we're at right now, and then this new platform that we're talking about establishing, right, going into the future. And if that new platform, will work the same way as this one, as far as Apple products, I guess.
Yeah, let's take a look at the city 15 years down the road. 15 years down the road, we are platform agnostic. There's no other way to reasonably continue to offer the level of service that we offer if we don't choose a platform agnostic development method moving forward. But unfortunately, that timeline sucks.
Steve finally said something that is music to Pete's ears, because he loves Apple products for design and communication, so.
I actually originally got into IT managing fleets of Macs, fleets of Apple computers. Pros and cons, most definitely. But unquestionably, the foundations that we have built as a city that make us as efficient as we are today were built with the dependency of a Windows product.
All right, thanks. Well, any other questions?
Just a comment, thank you for your work on this. It's probably well beyond most of our collective abilities to understand, but we really appreciate that you're working on it for us. So
Thank you.
So did you see an additional cost to do this?
To move into this direction. On the security framework side, no.
But as we go deeper into the good example, let's going back to construction, right? Is it cheaper to have no fire smoke alarms and
Is it cheaper to build a building that doesn't have seismic?
Yes, exactly, yes. Invariably, the answer is yes, but I think actually the low hanging fruit as we implement these security frameworks, it doesn't cost us necessarily anymore to make sure that a hallway is 3 feet wide. Right, it doesn't necessarily cost us to make sure that the stairways are not too pitched that people are likely to fall down. And initially, I think the same economy will play out in this arena. We can make subtle and reasonable changes to the way in which we do business that does not change the cost conversation. However, as we go further down, alarming systems, security systems, safety systems ultimately will end up meaning a change in the dollar amount allocated.
So it seems like the last 3 years we've upped our IT budget. Am I remembering correctly here?
Mm-hmm.
Is this an addition that you're saying, or have we covered some of this in this budget, these improvements that we've made with that?
For this budget year, it's included for what we're doing here.
Okay.
One thing I would keep in mind too, as outside vendors get more expensive, because they typically do. That's why our budget has to increase with the market. But I would also say too that as the bad actors are getting more and more savvy, we have to be more savvy too. And at some point, this privacy and security is probably going to be more than Steve can handle on his own. So in the future, it might take another person, but that's not something that we're looking at in the.
And another really big idea here is that we're in a transformational time. IT is a really young discipline. I mean, almost every different business unit in the city is engaging in some type of digital transformation right now. And our appetite for that change far exceeds the size of our stomach. Striking a balance and making sure that we are being responsible with the dollars that we're spending and that we're saying yes in the right ways and no in the right ways, I think will ultimately define the amount of budget that needs to go into this. But I don't see a future 10 years from now in which we're using less technology. And so I think invariably the budget will grow.
And we need to keep in mind too, the depth of our responsibility with our critical infrastructure, just in Chris's department alone with the water and treatment plant. That's very significant to the entire community, and so it's very important that we protect it. That's it.
And the other side of that coin almost, it has to be justice information systems. Because of the type of data that is stored in there, we need to make sure that we are good custodians of that.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sorry that went a little longer.
No, you're good.
It just cuts down on Chris's,
Okay. Let's move on to Chris. Would you like to give us a presentation or commission?
Yeah, thank you. So the commission that I've been working with, you'll hear, actual meeting this evening. So, I'll heard that the libraries and, do some of the major innovative activities that they've been pursuing. And the other is the, Orem Fest / events, Orem Events Commission that we're considering that, revision just to create the amount of effort that has gone into creating Orem Fest to create that foundation for all of the other events and activities for the city, to at least have the city staffing support for that. And it's going well, but right now, that it's been Orem Fest that turning up. Goes on that commission as we renew, as was mentioned, we'll be aware of that, so it's gonna be more of a help with more of those things that the citizens need and input. The other area that I'm working on is the Heritage Commission. The Heritage Commission right now has a contractor who is looking at various neighborhoods within the city and there. So we allocate resources to particular neighborhoods, and the commission's chosen a particular neighborhood to look at. They evaluate that, see if there's anything that needs to go on their preservation, recording, those kind of things. So that's in process and regularly in that. The final area that I've been helping on is the Utah League of Cities and Towns on the Legislative Policy Committee. And I know that there's several staff at the city that are working on that, and then I just participate. That's one that's critical to the future of our city as legislature and what they do to impact all of the cities in the state. So we've been very fortunate on that. I was at a meeting for a couple hours yesterday. So it's an ongoing effort for continuing to focus on it. That's probably the fast version of what we're doing. Several others on the council, well, some of the other committees, these committees that I am as well. So those are the report.
Okay, you feel good about where we're at with the legislature and
yes,
monitoring that, working with them?
Actually, I've been working with Brent also. He has some of his employees that we're looking to create representation from the city that will be actively pursuing all of that. Well, so there's a plan in place and we're pursuing that right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that's a critical piece as far as to make sure we have a voice at the table of, but get inflicted on us.
We always feel good when they're not in session.
Well, but yes, for example, yesterday's meeting that was lengthy, we were talking about a lot of subjects that when they go into legislature, they will have already had bills prepared.
Yeah.
So it's in the middle of reviewing all of those bills and getting input and saying,
Right, and sometimes we have
some major
bills that we want to proactively
Yes.
take to our legislators and push.
Yes,
So,
all of them.
And I just wanna say thank you for doing that, because even going up to the league meetings, was that last week? I can't remember when we went.
Yeah,
There was one large
the annual
meeting,
conference one, yeah.
on housing, and they flipped up a bill that is, they opened a bill file on, and they were saying some of the things, and there was, I don't know if there was any, I didn't get the vibe of any city in
No,
there
We talked
that
for half
wanted
hour
that
on
housing
alone,
bill.
That bill.
Did you? Cause that one was so extreme.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. And I'm like, are they doing that to start here so they can get what they really want, or what is going on here? That was, thank you for representing what's going on here in Orem.
Housing, every time we have that discussion, it's pretty obvious that the two groups are pretty far apart.
Yeah.
And as soon as we say yes, they say, great, here's the other 6 things.
Yeah. Well, and there were other city leaders that were just being quite vocal in those meetings. I was grateful for that to
Yeah.
see.
Same.
And it just made me think, let's join together here and really communicate that.
We would be capital district, we're on the call.
I'm the call.
At 10.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're on the committee.
In terms of staff support, as you're kind of saying already, big focus and increasing focus of our state legislature is on development, planning, zoning, housing subjects, and so I'm hoping to bring in Steve Earle, Ryan Clark, Gary McGinn to because there's a lot of information and it's concerning information that's coming in hard and fast, and we also want to, as Mayor is talking about, get ahead of leading some of the narrative too. Some of that narrative that you've been hearing some of the other cities now talk about is the idea of promoting I guess renewal and revitalization efforts for what we term as legacy cities, and obviously Orem is considered one of those legacy cities. So the fact that we're starting to hear that from others is kind of proof positive. Starting that narrative and having those conversations is building momentum, and we're starting to hear an interest that I guess from the state that they may be willing to do legislation that is hopefully positive and helpful in what we want to pursue.
Right, no, we started that conversation, so it's nice to see, other people coming in too.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So, some of these, I've been involved in some of these meetings, this is Lene and the mayor right now. And some of these issues that come up and they, the league, for example, will ask how representatives from cities feel about a certain position, and sometimes there's not unanimity, right? There's differing opinions on some issues, and sometimes, I'm like, well, this is how I feel, but I'm not entirely sure how the council might feel about this. So, just to give you an example, one of the proposals that's out there is a potential bill to allow detached accessory dwelling units. So by right, so that the legislature would say, you have to allow it detached. Right now, they say you have to allow an internal accessory dwelling unit, but allowing it detached is a very different animal. It might be, I don't know, would there be some value in having discussion among council about how you collectively feel about some of these things so that we can sort of represent you and are kind of on a united front?
That takes a long time.
I mean, that's just one. There may be other issues that we wanna talk about and make sure we, and that might help us also, if we know that everybody kind of feels the same, that might help us as we approach our own legislators.
Can I give you a couple more examples?
Yeah,
For everything that's approved, X number of an acre, they wanna say, no, there's 4 more than whatever you
Right,
proposed. Oh,
right.
we'll agree to only 1 more.
right,
So if the housing's approved for 5 or 6 an acre, let's say 6.
Yeah.
They'll say, no, it's automatically approved for 10.
yeah.
Okay, how about just 7?
Yeah.
It's.
Right, well, they start with the ridiculous, so they can
Well,
get something.
The infrastructure, even if you just say 1 more, we don't have infrastructure in all these areas to provide for water, sewer, roads, et cetera. And then off-street parking, that's a big issue. And every one of these, the developers pretty much say the same thing. And the Utah League of City and Towns and various of us who are on that committee say, that doesn't work for us. And Steve and I sometimes are on the same call, and you're kind enough to text me so that I can be the voice, so you can give, or in fact, Lene and I were
One time
both
we were
on.
all texting.
We were both on the call,
Yeah.
so it gave us some ammunition, so we could look as smart as Steve.
I mean,
which is
that's an example of
far
how
cry
we
from
were
me.
kind of collaborating, and it might be helpful to get, the entire council involved in knowing where we all stand on those.
But, Yeah, I'm assuming that you don't wanna have patented approval for, if it was 6, you were okay
We're
with 10.
upfronting, yeah.
I'm also assuming you wanna have a parking limit that's similar to what we have. What was the first one you mentioned?
The external ADUs.
The external ADUs, I think I know the council's decision, so happy to hear that.
I mean, just to give you an example where there's maybe a little bit more ambiguity, one of the proposals there, the developers are asking for is a requirement that you can't require more than 2 off-street parking stalls for a residential unit. Well, my opinion is that doesn't really bother us that much because we only require 2 right now. So if they're saying you can't require more than 2, well,
We're already there.
we're already there, right? A lot of other jurisdictions don't like that or opposed to it.
And
but-
that's where you kind of teed up at least Lene and I on another call, that was kind of helpful to know that.
Yeah, but, so, I mean, that's kind of, maybe it would be helpful to know if the rest of the council has a concern with that before I say, oh, well, we don't care.
Well, and
But,
I don't know how so how do we make that happen? The
yeah,
only way we would make that happen would be if there were concerns and staff wanted to put those together.
Right.
What do you think about this, this,
Yeah,
this?
we could
and
have
then
a conversation in a work session.
Uses with work sessions or even small groups.
Cause they're, I mean, just another example, guys, they put out, you know, we should charge for parking in front of your home. The street parking, that was one of the things put out there. I'm like, really? Is that?
Well, some of the projects down in neighboring cities, they charge, if you live in a multifamily complex and you have a driveway, you don't own that. You either pay for it or they'll sell it to your neighbor to live in your driveway.
Wow.
That's ridiculous.
So there's some interesting stuff going on.
Yeah,
Maybe we do, maybe we bring some of these things from these questions they give us,
Yeah.
right?
There's
We kinda know what the
surveys throughout
issues
the
are.
meeting that tells you, just think, is maybe we can turn some of those polls.
Yeah.
Cause you're on those,
Survey
Brent.
Monkey or
Yeah.
Qualtrics survey.
And if we do find that we have consensus among council on these issues, then I think it's easier for us to go to our own legislators and say, look, we really want you to oppose this or to favor this. or
So
whatever.
we have come to an agreement on several things. The one that sticks in my mind right now is if you're doing manufacturing at a central location and you're putting parts together, you know, maybe walls or whatever, that cities will accept that inspection, so they don't have to do an inspection there and when it comes to the city. I thought that was, you know, for prefab portions. I think all the city got together on that and said, yeah, if we have a unified inspector, we're okay with that. And that was one of the few things we brought to the governor that they said, great, we've got developers and the cities that were okay with that. But after that, most of them are further apart than some of those things. You might think of others, Stephen, that I'm not thinking of, where we came to an agreement, the governor was happy and on and went, or the governor's committee.
Yeah, I mean, I think there've been a lot of those things that have happened over the years, you know, where
That's
there's
the
come
one
a
that's kind of
consensus
most
on
recent in my
things, yeah.
head.
Well, technically ADUs in basements is where there's been something of an agreement.
Yeah,
And so, one thing that I'd love to get your opinion on and ideas on is how do we flesh that out and address either positives or negatives related with that?
Yeah.
So that it is, so that that's used, and then we can say back to the state, hey, look, we're being a good actor in relation to basement ADUs and still trying to ensure that they are safely implemented.
Cause we modified our rules where it used to be you had to have your own HVAC in that separate location, different entry, I mean, we modified all that,
Extra
right?
parking.
To coincide with the state code.
Right, and so now I wanna make sure that our state legislators don't forget to give us credit for that.
That was
Because
yesterday.
ultimately, that
Yeah.
counts, that plays into the total future.
But you know what,
legislation.
Tom, I'm not gonna stop saying it.
We did
Because
this.
when we start acquiescing, when we start, you know,
Yeah.
when we stop saying, look, we've done this with Jen, it takes and takes and takes, right? So
Well,
keep pushing.
and I hope you're talking about when you're there, you know, each city, like Orem is different than, say, Alpine or Mapleton, where we are built out, right, 95%. So the glove doesn't fit everybody,
And
right?
we do
So
provide a lot of rentals. in our
Yeah,
city,
so-
don't we?
you can't just do a broad, you know, swath and say, hey, this is what it's gonna be, and it doesn't work.
Well,
and
so-
that's a point that the league hammers on a lot.
Yeah.
Their
One size
motto
fits
is
all.
one size fits all.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is, the narrative from the state that there's this big housing shortage problem isn't going away. They keep continuing to communicate that, and so I think we need to continue to communicate the solutions that already exist
Well-
and or can be improved.
And we wanna put some things out about the solutions we're doing here. Exactly. So we can proactively show what we're doing here to solve these problems.
And correct their data, cause I appreciated, you know, where they say you're short 200,000 and you're like, we have entitled 180,000. So we're not short 200,000, that's
As a
20,000.
state, you mean, when
Yes.
Cameron points that out,
When
and
he-
there's many
Yeah, when
entitled.
they say we're short 200,000 housing
The
units,
build
no,
out was entitled.
been 180,000 that have been entitled.
Yeah.
So stop making it look so dire, we got 20,000 we gotta work with.
And then how many of those will add an internal ADU?
Yeah.
Like,
Then it's 10,000 maybe, right?
Yeah.
But it's a very active conversation. We're in the thick of, so we do wanna make sure we can share information.
I think
as
a
possible.
Google Doc or a survey among us would be very helpful. And I think within legally, we can do a survey, can we not?
I'm sure we could do a survey among council, sure.
Good, I think that would be very helpful.
Okay, Ryan.
Right,
It's gotta be
I'm looking
something
at
that say,
city
right?
as to what's legal and not.
Yeah.
Not do this.
And the only
Well-
tricky thing about a survey, we can do basics on survey, but the only tricky thing is some things need an explanation.
Yeah.
In a conversation.
And that's what we're gonna have to have.
Right. So.
But I think we can get 8 of the 10 things, be pretty darn near unanimous on.
Some of them are going to be obvious.
Yeah.
So we're gonna.
But I think the spirit of it will be to receive input, not make decisions, right? We would
Yeah.
bring back the data.
Yeah,
input
so that
into
we're not making a decision on a Google Doc.
Okay. Let's do this really quick.
Sorry, that pulled us off.
Mayor,
That's important.
Jeff Prince and arranged for Lauren, he's not gonna be here to give the opening.
She said 7.
Either Chris or I
You probably
can introduce you. I understand he might have sent you the information. Jeff sent Chris and I both the information about this.
How do you got mine?
I didn't see it today, but maybe you sent it.
I'd be happy to introduce her.
You want to introduce her?
And I don't think that you can introduce the American Legion who is doing the pledge.
So by American Legion, we just.
Look behind you, they're all.
Who's doing the pledge?
Yeah, but not a person.
No, the whole,
They're all.
there's 3 or 4 people.
Person is, but we could probably find out right before, so you.
80% of the audience.
Okay.
Am I right? You're shaking your head, you're saying, okay, listen.
No, there's more than that.
Sorry.
Okay. So going to item number 6, we've got a proclamation from the Daughters of the Revolution on the, I believe Constitution Month, I think. Item 6.2, presentation of Constitution essay and art winners. I think you all voted on that.
Are they presenting tonight, or we just, are they reading their thing?
There's 5 minutes. I can't fix mine.
Perfect, thank you.
And item 6.3, the Library Advisory Commission is going to report. Item 6.4, summer reading wrap up presentation, who's doing that?
That's part of Dave, can you talk?
That's-
I got
Library.
it done at 6:45. Okay.
There's a bet going on.
You're slowing it down, dude.
Gambling on elections are not.
Blowing this down. So that's
And
the
I'm in the
library,
meeting.
that's the library twice, is that?
Yes.
One's the summer read program and one is the library commission.
Okay,
So it's two separate.
and then item number 6.5, we're gonna table, that's not ready right now. Item 6.6 is a report of employee giving, day of caring, that's gonna be Karina. And then we go to personal appearances. And then we've got item 8, consent items, we just got 2 things, approval of meeting minutes and reappointment of the Public Works Advisory Commission, Jim Michaelis. Skip item 9. Officially, so everyone knows, that's gonna be on your agenda, but we are generally gonna skip it. Because it's informational only. And then item 10, anything Brad would like to add, and then we'll adjourn, so this should be a fairly good day. Okay, so, thank you for coming and. We'll adjourn.
So these recommendations, recommendations. Yeah.
Did you hear about the neighborhood?
I'm not sure what happened. Which neighbor? I mean, this looks like a recommendation development.
Oh, this is the recommendation.
We'd like to welcome everyone here tonight and call this meeting to order. We'll start out with an invocation by Laura Redford. And Tom, would you like to introduce Laura?
Where are you? I'm sorry. Thank you. Jeff Lamson gave us a little information about you. We understand you and your husband, Kevin, have 3 children in each age group in the Alpine School District, grade school, junior high, and high school, that you teach U.S. history and city planning at BYU. She's also taught transportation history to urban planning and civil engineer majors, and she currently serves on Orem's Transportation Advisory Commission. Would you please give us the invocation?
Community. We're grateful for the beautiful surroundings in which we live and the beauty of nature thou hast provided. We're thankful to live in a country that enjoys freedom of expression and freedom of belief. And we're grateful for those who defend those freedoms and those who frame them and those who continue to advocate for them. We are thankful to live in a community full of kind neighbors and pray that our community will have the things that it needs to thrive. We ask for a spirit of cooperation to be with us in this meeting today, and a blessing on those who serve and make decisions for our community and for our city. We're grateful for those who work on behalf of our city and the fine effort that they provide, and offer this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Laura. Next, item number 4, we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance, but we're going to do something a little bit different this month. We're going to have our American Legion lead this and make it more of an event. And we're doing this in honor of Constitution Month. And then David Forsyth, did you want to say something?
No. Flag Hill, Rosette, colors. Sorry. I'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance now. Those of you who have served in the military, the Congress would authorize, if you're in civilian clothes, it's still proper to salute the flag. We're doing a little different thing today. There's 13 folds of the flag, and each one represents something, and I'll read that as these guys really have to do the pledge here.
Use this mic here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The flag is first, when we do this at any time kind of ceremony, it's folded twice. And then it does our 13 folds, which I will read here. Oh, I'm sorry. I can do that up there. The first fold of the flag is a symbol of life. The second fold is a symbol of our belief in eternal life. The third fold is made in honor and remembrance of the veterans departing our ranks and who gave a portion of his or her life in defense of our country to attain peace throughout the world. The fourth fold represents our weaker nature as American citizens, trusting in God. It is Him
we turn to in times of peace as well as in times of war for his divine guidance. The fifth fold is tribute for our country. In the words of Stephen Decanter, our country is dealing with other countries. May she always be right. But if she is not, our country is still, if she is not right or wrong, it's still our country. The sixth fold is for where our hearts lie. It is with our hearts that we pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, our nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The seventh fold is a tribute to our armed forces, for it is through the armed forces that we protect our country and our flag against all enemies, whether they be found within or without the boundaries of our republic. The eighth fold is a tribute to the one who entered into the valley of the shadow of death, that we might see the light of day, and to honor our mothers for whom it flies on Mother's Day. The ninth fold is a tribute to womanhood. It has been throughout their faith, love, loyalty, and devotion that has molded the character of the men and women who have made this country great. The 10th fold is a tribute to Father, who has also given his sons and daughters for defense of our country since he or she was first born. The 11th fold represents the lower portion of the seal of King David and King Solomon, and glorifies the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The 12th fold represents an emblem of eternity and glorifies God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. The 13th fold and last fold, when the flag is completely folded, the stars are uppermost, remind us of our national motto, "In God we trust." Flag will now be represented to our commander. And we'll now have taps.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Oh.
we offer taps to all who have served in the United States military. We consider it a sentimental goodbye. We encourage all of you, put your right hand on your heart. If you have served in the military, Congress enacted a law in 2005 that says you may salute whether you're in uniform or not. You earned that right. Present. Give a sound on taps.
Two, thank you. Flag detail dismissed. Our commander has a few words.
The flag is folded in a triangle. And if you can imagine,
The reason it's folded this way is in honor of the colonial warriors who wore hats shaped kind of like this, that fought for our freedoms, our liberty, and our independence. The points of the flag represents the Godhead, the Eternal Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Now, to many of us Americans, the flag is a reminder of the sacrifices of many to bring about this great nation and to protect our Constitution, our liberty, rights, and freedom. The Constitution of the United States was created by inspired men. I read in Doctrine and Covenants 101, verses 79 through 80. It is not right that any man should be in bondage one to another. And for this purpose have I established the Constitution of this land by the hands of wise men, whom I raise up unto this very purpose. May God continue to bless the United States of America. I pray in the name of the Savior. Amen. Thank you.
And thank you, Post 72, the American Legion. We really appreciate all that you do, and we appreciate you coming here for this presentation for Constitution Month to remind us, and that playing of taps was really inspirational. We appreciate that.
Hey, Mayor, do you think we could give them a round of applause?
I think so. Yeah. Okay, moving on. We'll go to item number 6. 6.1. We've got a proclamation that the Daughters of the Revolution would like to make. And if Diane Nelson, if you'd like to come up and present that.
Okay. Mayor Young, council members and guests, I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to remind you and all of the guests about Constitution Week, which you are aware of this week, September 17th to the 23rd. The Daughters of the American Revolution helped create this week of observance for the foundation of the American form of government. They created a resolution in 1955, and it was signed into law by President Eisenhower on August 2nd, 1956. The commitment of the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution is to encourage study and educate the public about the Constitution, which was adopted by the American Congress of the Confederation on September 17th, 1787, so 230 years ago. I have some handouts for everyone that I can put in the back of the preamble and lists of ways that people can celebrate Constitution Week this week. The United States Constitution stands as a testament to the tenacity of Americans throughout history to maintain their liberties, freedoms, and unalienable rights, and the Daughters of the American Revolution hopes you have a fun time celebrating our nation's framework of government. So I have the proclamation here. Do you read it, or do we just, wasn't sure.
I can read it if you'd like me to, or you can read it either way.
Would you like me to read it? Okay. Whereas the Constitution of the United States of America, the guardian of our liberties, embodies the principles of limited government in a republic dedicated to rule by law. And whereas September 17th, 2024 marks the 237th anniversary of the framing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate it. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Diane. Is that something that you need us to sign or need me to sign? Okay. Yeah, thank you for so much for coming tonight, and I knew this was Constitution Week, and actually in Orem we've designated this Constitution Month, but I didn't realize September 17th today was the 237th exact anniversary of the signing of the Constitution. So that's very cool. But I appreciate you coming and sharing that with us.
So Mayor, if this is something that you and the council would like to sign, you could make a motion just approving that proclamation as it has been read to you.
Okay.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the proclamation that's been read to us.
I second.
Aye.
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 Aye, for sure.
Resolution passes. Thank you. Let's move on to another Constitution event. We've had a lot going on this month, but now we've got item 6.2, which we had a Constitution essay and art. And there were a number of people who entered this, and then all of us as city council members voted on this as far as the winners. So Pete, if you'd like to make that presentation.
Yes, thank you. I have the chills a little bit still from TAPS. But this is, like you mentioned, Mayor, this is wonderful that we're having a city council meeting today on the exact day the Constitution was signed. I mean, what a more fitting way to the Constitution, exercising our right of government. So this is wonderful. So I'm going to present with some of our award winners or contest winners were able to make it, some weren't. So we'll just present everybody. And if they're here, we ask that you come up and be recognized, and then we will take a picture with the council. So we'll start with the youth essay contest winners, and it was won by a trio of sisters. So Zoe Erickson, Hope Erickson, and Jane Erickson, in that order, won first, second, and third place. They weren't able to make it tonight, but we congratulate them, and they'll get their prize in the mail. Now we'll go to the adult essay winners. So the mom of these three sisters won first place. That's Charlotte Erickson. So she was the first place winner. But I believe our second and third place winner are here. So if we can have Devin Jensen come up and Brent Eliason. Congratulations on your essays. They were wonderful. You're Brent. You get a picture of me. And now we'll, let's see, I don't think it's pulling up. I have the art contest winners. I wanted to show the work that they did. Let me see if I can get it pulled up. All right, so we'll start with our third place winner. This is Eleanor Short. Come on up, Eleanor. And this is what Eleanor drew, or painted, I guess, watercolor. Excellent job. Congratulations. Just hang out with these guys here. Next up, for our second place winner is Melody Allen. And this is what she drew, a nice Mount Rushmore scene. And it looks like she even brought the original. Stay up here, Melody, with us. Come stand with us. And our first place winner on the art contest is Melody Crockett. And this is what she drew, or painted, I guess. So we'd love to get a picture together. Thank you all for participating. Excellent work on both the essays and the art. Let's get a picture with the mayor and the council, and then we'll send your prize money through by email. Go on up there. Just go on up there. Maybe parents, come on up. All right, 1, 2, 3. Enseñar tu certificado. Good. Okay. All right. So the essays and the art will be posted on our website as well as on social media so that the rest of the city can see the awesome work that they did. And it's fun that we had all kinds of different ages participate in this. So thank you all.
So if I can add a little plug for our arts council, we're actually in the near future going to be considering local art to cover our utility boxes. So you artists out there, watch for the announcement of when to submit your art. We'd love to have you do something for that too.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to the winners and everyone else who participated. We'll go to item 6.3. This is a presentation from the Library Advisory Commission. And Bryce, if you'd like to come up and present that.
Well, Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity to be with y'all today as we report on our annual report for the Library Advisory Commission. We're excited to be here today. I'm joined by Katrina Brittner, who has served as our chair for the last year. And we are going to do two things. We're going to start with a brief video that overviews some of the really exciting things happening. And then I'll turn it over to Katrina for a report on some of what's been. Oh, you know what? She would like to go first. So while I'm setting this up, she'll give us a brief report.
Okay, while he's setting that up, I just wanted to pull out a few things. Thank you again, Mayor and City Council, for inviting us here. You'll see in the video what the mission statement is for the library. And I'll read that to you just because it kind of goes fast in there. The statement is, we inspire lifelong learning, create enriching opportunities, and strengthen our communities. And as I've been on the commission and as I've been working with the wonderful librarians and staff there, I can see that that's truly their goal. And in fact, in more than one of our meetings, we've had one of the librarians say their focus is they're actually trying to turn the word library into a verb. So when people ask them, what do you do? They say, we do library. And that encompasses so many things that we have in our library. And just a few little points, we have over 700,000 items in our collection in our library here. And the last year saw over 1.7 million checkouts of things, whether it be digital or books or makerspace. And I wanted to highlight some of those things. When you think of a library, people always think of books. And as the Library Commission and as the librarians, we want people to put books in their hands, of course, and to read. But it's so much more at our Orem Public Library. We have library hall events. We have musicians that come, entertainers that come. We have author visits and signings. We have youth game nights, youth movie nights. I mentioned the makerspace. I checked out a telescope and went up to Big Springs and got to, look at the stars there. So there are just so many opportunities here at the library. And as I look at it, at our Orem Public Library, I see it as the hub of Orem, or kind of like the living room. I mean, this is the place you go for books and for all these activities. And if it's a hot summer day, you come for the air conditioning. But this is just a key part of our community, and we're just grateful that we have the support of the mayor and the council members and of our community here. And I do want to say we have my friends from the commission and the library are here too. So we're grateful. Thank you. And we'll turn over to this video.
Mayor and council, I'd like to just add to a brief thought to the end of that video. We are about a year into our focus on transforming into an experience library, not a errand that people run to come pick up an item, but a place that people come to be and to create community with us. Y'all know I love our numbers, and so there's a lot of fun in saying that we've had 20% more visits year over year from this year to the previous year. We've had more participation, we've had these circulation numbers, but the value of the library, as Katrina mentioned, is in those individual experiences, that living room, that third space. Just last week, we had the Shakespeare Grassroots Festival happening in the back storytelling wing of the library, and a mother and child had come into the circulation area, and the mother, hearing a very fun time being had at the back of the library, leaned over and said, "What are we missing?" And I love that idea that she recognized that great things were happening. And if you're not at the library, I can attest that you're missing out. And so I love that sentiment from one of our residents. And I am just so grateful for our Library Advisory Commission, the staff that we have that have just really dived into this idea of being an experienced library and creating and improving our access to our collection. So thank you for your support. And we'll see y'all next year.
Thank you. And thank you for doing a great job taking us to this experience level, library level. It's a whole new vision. It's a whole new idea. And we're going to take all the good things that we have in the library and take them to the next level. So you guys are doing a phenomenal job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we've got another library presentation. This is the summer reading wrap up.
I recognize when I said see you next year that was very false. I was the next agenda item. I'm going to immediately turn it over to our program staff, now our reference librarian, Megan Flinders Pay, and Jamie Bartlett, who is our division manager over patron experience, to do a report on our 2024 summer reading program, as well as a look ahead and invitation for the upcoming Orem Reads Challenge this October.
Thank you. We're excited to be here with you this evening. So we had a fabulous summer this year with the theme Adventure Begins at the Library. We had more participation than ever before, as we've said, and to complete that challenge, patrons needed to read a minimum of 10 hours or 600 minutes per person. And so in total, our community read over 3.8 million minutes, which is the equivalent of one person reading nonstop for 7.25 years. That's no breaks, no potty breaks, nothing, like just reading. That's a lot of reading. And we are so proud that our community was able to read that much in one summer. We're very excited about the growth we saw this summer. You can see in this slide the comparison of our stats from 2023 to 2024. Completion of the program, meaning those that finished those 10 hours of reading, increased from 58% in 2023 to 71% this year. Our participation numbers went up for the overall program by just under 900 patrons, and attendance at all of our events increased, including our kickoff event and our finale. And a special shout out to the recreation team for making our finale at the Sierra Pool possible. We had over 7,000 patrons attend the 75 library programs that we held this summer, and there was a lot of excitement about our programs. For example, our adventure escape room that we do every year was completely full within 2 hours of opening that registration, and we were actually able to open an additional day so that we could have more of our community participate. And we saw a lot of that this summer with our awesome library staff going with the flow, adding things, and getting ready to continue bringing a quality program to this additional growth that we were seeing. We had story times out at City Center Park, movie nights, teen activities, and so much more. We were also able to give away more prizes than ever this year. We gave away roughly 4,632 prize packets to reward people for hitting different milestones in their reading. And we awarded 313 prize drawing items to patrons who completed the challenge. Many of these rewards were provided by the 24 businesses and organizations that sponsored the program. To wrap up this report, we wanted to share the information we collected from our participants. We did a survey at the end of the program, and this showed that 65% of survey participants were returning patrons of the summer reading program, and roughly 30% were doing it for the first time. 96% of patrons said they were satisfied or very satisfied with the program, and 97% of patrons said they were planning to do the program again next year. The majority of participants also reported that the program helped them read, visit the library, and attend the programs more than usual. We also got a lot of very positive stories from patrons, and I wanted to share just a few of them with you. One person shared that my kindergartner just learned to read this past school year. Since reading almost every day this summer, she has grown more confident in reading more advanced books. Her excitement that she can read to her 2-year-old brother is wonderful to watch. Another person shared, we've spent so much more time together doing activities and reading as a family. It's been really fun and so great to have all these free activities. Plus, it helps us learn so much more. We love the makerspace. And this last comment I wanted to share that goes along with what Katrina shared. The events, book clubs, beanstack challenges, et cetera, have helped my kids to realize there is so much more to libraries than books. To conclude, summer reading was wonderful, and we wanted to thank the mayor and city council and city staff, particularly our library staff, for helping make this such a wonderful year. And then we also wanted to share with you the announcement of our Orem Reads 2024 reading community read. That will work.
Okay, so our read this year, last year we did Frankenstein. This year it's another F, Fahrenheit 451. This is a fantastic book, written in 1953. This is kind of the seminal work of Ray Bradbury. This is the book that I got so absorbed in. I got in trouble many times at school because I would not put it down and pay attention in math class. And so it's well worth reading. This October, we're going to have all kinds of fun events going on to highlight the book and have a chance to talk about the book. We have a reading challenge on Beanstack, so you can sign up, track your reading on that app, and then you can enter prizes for prize drawings along the way. And at the finale, we're going to have some prizes that we give away. Possibly also for the best costume, because it does happen on October 29th, right before Halloween. So we have a Titles and Treats Gala that's going to end the event, where we're going to come together. It's trick-or-treating for adults with books and autumnal delectables. I like that phrase that they put on here. And costumes are optional, but there will be prizes. We're going to kick the whole thing off, though, on October 3rd. So we invite you to come to the kickoff at 7 o'clock in the auditorium in the library hall. We have an award-winning author, Shannon Hale, who's coming to speak about her experience, her personal experience throughout her career with book banning and how it's affected her. And then she's going to be there for a book sale and book signing. In between those two events, we have things like a murder mystery date night, lots of snack and chats, or chat and snacks. I can't remember which way it goes. But food and talk, that's what we're after. Just talking about the book, geeking out together about all the wonderful things that Ray Bradbury foresaw from 1953 of our day and time and how it applies to us. We have a film screening as well of the 1966 classic film version of this. For those who come to those events, you'll get a free book for your household to read along with us. And if you're like, books, I do audiobooks, that's my jam. We have the audiobook free on our Hoopla app at the library. So you can come and grab a free copy of that to read along with us. So we invite you all to come and join in. And we have some books. And you get a preview, yes.
Very nice.
You too can avoid math class. Avoid dishes, avoid laundry, all those things.
Well, thank you guys. That was great. And just like I said a minute ago about the library, there's great things happening in the library. We're very excited about that. I think of it in terms of, we have a rec center, and that's our bodies, and our numbers are through the roof at the rec center. And we've got a library, and that's for our minds. And your numbers are up 20% for last year. That's amazing. You're doing a phenomenal job. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next up, we've got item 6.5. It was a presentation from the Transportation Advisory Commission. We're going to table that presentation for tonight, and we'll have that another time.
I make a motion that we table item 6.5, Transportation Advisory Mission Report.
Second.
Aye.
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 The presentation is tabled. We'll go to item 6.6, and this is a report from Karina Eckern on the Employee Giving Day of Caring.
You guys can't get rid of me yet. Okay, well, I am honored to be the one that gets to present on this year's United Way of Caring efforts here in Orem City. It has been so fun to be a part of it and be a part of the committee and really encourage our employees to go out and donate, do a little bit out of the norm, and you work you go to work, and then you get to have this day where you get to still be at work, but you get to go and give to your community. And so it's been such a fun project to oversee. But first, I want to thank the committee. There's been a lot of staff members who get to be involved with all the projects. A big shout out to Pete Wolfley, who is my number 2 on this project. I could not have done this without him. And so it's been so much fun. So let's get into, let's see if that went. Are you guys good with that? It's a video. So this is just a video of some of the pictures of all the projects that we did throughout the day. Okay, so this year was a pretty historic year for our employee giving campaign. And I think something that was really special with it is because we also were able to have the efforts of the Gold Star Monument as a donation item as well. This year we had the theme of back to school, as we did a lot of school projects. And so these are some of the efforts that we did of our kickoff event. The silent auction is always a popular item amongst the employees. We had a tier giving prize, which was, a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. And so depending on how much you give, you got a package of that, the package. And so we also got an amazing email from Bren Bybee, which was an encouragement to our employees to get involved and donate, and then also be a part of the service day. And then internal marketing, and then something that was different from previous years is we had an exclusive day of giving event. And so you were only allowed to go to a very, very fun event if you donated. Even just in the lowest freshman tier, if you donated, you got to go to this event. And I think that made a big difference, and it was so much fun. We went to a park, we got to do some mini golf, have some brunch. It was just a really fun day. So here are some of the numbers, and like I said, we were able to combine with the Gold Star Monument. So this is how many people
employee donations. So we had 34 in the Gold Star, where it just went to the Gold Star. 59 employees went to the United Way. And then we also gave the option of you can donate to both. And so we had 48 people donate to both the Gold Star and United Way. And then in total, we had 141 employee donations. Last year, we had 104 employees. And so that went up pretty significantly. We got 37 more employees to donate this year. And so with how much we raised, we had a goal of $25,000 to raise. And so last year we raised 20, and then this year we got just around 29,000, which is really exciting and really feels very rewarding because it went to both the Gold Star and United Way. And then just for the last slide, these are the projects that we were able to participate in the day of service. We added one more project from last year, and we got a total of 131 employee volunteers. And last year we had about just barely around 100. And so we got 30 more employees to come over and to help on the day of service. So there's so many great things happening here in Orem, and I think every year we're just getting better and better, and it's going to continue with Orem City, and I think that's because of the council and leadership that our mayor and city council have, and then our amazing executives team. And so it's been such an honor to be a part of this project, and I'm excited to follow along and see where Orem goes in the future. But that is everything. Do you guys have any questions?
We have any questions? No, it looks like another fantastic Orem event. And again, it's up significantly from last year.
Mm-hmm.
So no, we appreciate that. And I just want to say something about Karina. Karina's been a phenomenal employee since I've been here, or just shortly after. But if you want an example of someone who's forward-thinking, hardworking, a bundle of energy, and brings a ton of good into the world, that's Karina. And she's done a phenomenal job here in Orem, and we hate to see her go, but she's got to move with her family. So anyway, but we appreciate you, Karina, and all that you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 7. Personal appearances. We only have one personal appearance tonight, and that's with John Duffy. So John, if you'd like to come up.
Okay, great. Thank you. I do have a handout but I only made 10 copies and I need one to go through with you. Who would be the most relevant people? So the topic is ADUs. Let you guys, okay. So the use case for ADUs, really there's 2 main use cases. It's a big issue for affordable housing, right? But ADUs, the big thing is if you've got aged parents or if you've got young kids that can't afford housing, can I put an ADU in my backyard or something like that? But as I started investigating that and digging into what the rules are in Orem, if you flip to page 2 and see that's what's highlighted in yellow in the zoning requirement, it says apartment must be part of the footprint of the primary structure / home of the lot. And I'm like, okay, that's got to be in the code somewhere. Where is that? And they said the code is, and if you look at the bottom of page 1, it's code 2268 F. And at first that reads pretty clear, but the last sentence on it, now remember, this is being interpreted as, maybe I should back up a little bit. I jumped a little ahead of myself. It's being interpreted as if you're going to build an ADU and it's not in your basement, you're going to build something outside your home, it needs to be connected by one wall. And that's where they said, it has to be part of the primary structure. You can't have something separate. It has to share the same wall. But when you look at the law down there, one family, single dwelling, all the first sentence is like, okay. And then the last sentence says, only one single family shall occupy an accessory apartment. I'm like, okay, now how did that get interpreted as, you know, it all has to be in one footprint? Or what I've been told is it has to be a shared wall when you have an ADU. I have someone in my neighborhood who built one, and they actually went to the expense, they built a tunnel between their two structures, a structure in the backyard, and then they build a tunnel to their main house, to their basement. That's the Reds. Kelly Red built it for his parents, Bruce and Denise. But I just am scratching my head about this, having a separate standing ADU as opposed to having to have a wall that connects it. And I do not understand the value of that. And I also don't understand how that ordinance in the city code is interpreted as it has to be part of the same footprint on the checklist. So that's my issue. I'm just trying to understand that because it's a big issue in the state. And I don't want to live in California. California's got really progressive laws of this stuff. And it's like, they're a little crazy, in my opinion. But yet we are way further back than what's happening in the Salt Lake area. I'm getting in the ADU business. I want to put one in my backyard, but I'm also going to get in the business, but I can't do anything in my hometown. I guess I got to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Okay, next up, we've got our consent items. Yes, John, have you met with any of the city staff at all about this? Just to get more information?
I talked to David, he wasn't aware of it. I went and talked to some staff. The person I talked to was Chelina Van Wagener, and then she pointed me to another person. I can't remember the other person's name, but that's the people I've talked to, and they just said it has to be a shared wall. I'm like, why?
Say, Brent, was there anybody you'd recommend?
Ryan and Steve, I think we could assign Gary McGinn to reach out and hopefully help explain some of the why behind the current regulation.
Am I supposed to talk to one of you?
No.
I'll get your contact information here in just a minute, if that'll work.
Okay.
It's on this.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll reach out.
I just want to give somebody to follow up with you on this.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, next up, we've got item 8, consent items. Item 8.1, approval of meeting minutes from August 20th, 2024, the special joint ASD meeting, and the August 27th, 2024 city council meeting. Item 8.2, reappointment of a Public Works Advisory Commission member, Jim Michaelis.
I move for approval of the consent items, Mr. Mayor.
I second.
Aye.
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 The consent items passed. Thank you. Okay, last up, we've got item number 10. Our city manager, Brent, if you'd like to share anything with us.
Just two quick important events coming up. This Friday will be our Volunteer Appreciation Gala. This is something we're excited to bring back. Haven't had it for quite some time. It'll be at the UVU Grand Ballroom at 6 p.m. And we'll be doing exactly what the title says, expressing that sincere appreciation and gratitude for the really the awesome volunteerism that we get here in Orem, and I guess receive here in Orem, that is really second to none compared to other cities in terms of the amount of volunteerism we enjoy. And then kind of dovetailing off of Karina's presentation, there will be another Gold Star Family Project fundraiser event. We're teaming up with Texas Roadhouse here in Orem on Thursday, September 26th, and we'll send out more info, but anyone who purchases food there at Texas Roadhouse between 3 and 10 that day, 10% of those proceeds will go towards the Gold Star Family Monument Project.
And I have personally used their takeout, and it is very, very good. So you can do that on that night if you want.
Yes, takeout or to go included. Yeah, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Brent. And likewise, I'd encourage you to, anybody who's watching or any of you here, go to Texas Roadhouse that night. They'll help us out. Last item, like to make a motion, or somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
I second.
Aye.
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 We're adjourned. Thank you so much for coming.